Hi Ravens, Hell Mother Lilith. What I'm going to do in this video is go through and what my plans are for Diablo 4 as we approach the early access release, and the footage you can see in the background there is just some footage from my Diablo 4 closed beta rogue where I mained with a bow. It didn't go particularly well because I knew nothing of the game, and this was really the first opportunity I had to play rogue. I was in the closed alpha, but I didn't touch rogue, so I did other classes. Anyway, let's move on. My plan is I'm not going to be awake for the actual kickoff of what Blizzard are calling day one, which is the early access, because for me, my local time zone, it is midnight. Now, while I could do that, it just means I long term lose out. So my plan is to take a long nap during the day, and then wake up, see if we got early access around about 2200 hours. If it's not up, then I'm just going to go back to bed and wake up somewhere around 3-4 a.m. and hopefully by that point there'll be no or fewer disconnects and the servers are all stable and fine, then there's no queue. That's the plan. I'm hoping it's going to work. Now let's go through my build, which is on a different screen. Hopefully this works. Seamlessly screen change. Right, as you can see here, this is a build. Now this is a Twisting Blades setup, but I didn't, before I started playing rogue, I didn't know anything about this build. I didn't know it was going to be meta. I started messing around with this in the open access, I think it was, beta, where everyone had access to it, not the closed beta. And then I did some more in the server slam, and I was finishing the main quest line in Act 1 on this build in about 40 minutes, give or take 5 minutes, depending on random world events and which elites spawned. But the priority was just following the main quest line, and I got that done. I think I ended up being about level 13, 14, somewhere around there. So this build is designed at doing all the way, as you can see by the name, go fast, get to wheel tier 3, respec. Not quite true. I'm going to go fast as I can, get to world tier 3. Then I'm going to grind out Renown in tier 3 and collect information and codex powers and legendaries for the main character I'll be playing, which is Druid. So the purpose of the rogue build is, and those that do Path of Exile a lot will understand, a league start. Get to a certain point and then immediately change. And that's the idea. I'm hoping, as I said, to be up around about 3 my local time, 3 a.m, 4 a.m. That's British summer time, so that's GMT plus 1. And then literally go for the rogue, get all the way to world tier 3 in one go. And then see how tired I am, etc. If I've got enough I will keep going and grind out some renown, get all those extra passive points, grind out codex powers, do most of the dungeons, etc, etc, and just really build up a good foundation of resources and codex powers and gems, so then when I'm leveling my druid it won't feel too bad because it'll be significantly overpowered. And also maxing out my obols, so as soon as I get to like level 15 or so, around there, I can just bam all my obols into gear, move on to world tier 2 and get that done on the druid and go from there. I'll probably still do the campaign. I know I can skip it on the druid, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have that campaign as a solid line to follow progression and gear, etc. For me personally, it's better for me. I can do all the side quests, etc, on the druid as well, and even build up some more renown. So first of all, let's walk through this rogue. Now I'm not going to start off, this is an end game build, so this is level 50 with max renown and some paragon boards, which I'll go through in a minute. We actually start off with blade shift, enhanced blade shift, and then we move into fundamental blade shift. But for the purpose of end game, we've got puncture enhanced puncture, and fundamental puncture. I've got a spreadsheet which shows how to purchase all the skills. I'm going to turn that into a Google Doc and provide the link below this video to show how I've done the points, but at the moment I'll just walk through here. So the idea is to go blade shift, enhanced blade shift, and then fundamental blade shift. The reason for that is I tried starting off with puncture, and yes, you do get the vulnerable from puncture, and you get the energy and stuff, but the way I've built the rogue, you don't actually need to worry about energy too much, and you don't need to worry about being vulnerable, because we respec at the end of the quest line in Act 1. So at the end of Act 1, around about 13, 14, 15-ish, I'm going to say about 15 I want to try and get to in Act 1. By that point I should have completed the Act 1 main quest line and got the first passive point Renown, or be very close to it. And at that point we respec, we come out of blade shift and into puncture, which also means this is a marksman skill, and that's relevant for one of the powers I'm going to aim to get later on. We of course go for rank 5 twisted blades, enhanced twisting blades, and advanced twisting blades. Much later on in the build we come back here for sturdy and siphoning strikes. We've got shadow step, enhanced shadow step, and methodical shadow step. Again, later on in the build we come back for weapon mastery. I'm not taking dash because running around the world, there's not that many monsters to dash to. This is only applicable in dungeons where you've got the constant tide, or in boss fights. Now I'd prefer to go with the Dark Shroud because we got the protective layer. You could then take enhanced Dark Shroud again for more defense, and then finally that's the wrong one, we take subverting Dark Shroud. Unspec. Can I unspec that? Let me unspec it. Thank you. There we go. We take it subverting Dark Shroud for the extra movement. So this one's probably better, but again this is more of an end game variant. So when we first pick up Dark Shroud, we'll go subverting for the extra movement speed. As we progress through, we're probably going to respec and take countering Dark Shroud. Shadow imbuement maxed out, enhanced shadow, blended shadow. We come back up here later on to pick up precision imbuement, shadow crush, and consuming shadows. We then go down, and again this is where my build differs to a lot of others. I take shadow clone, prime shadow clone, and supreme shadow clone, and the reason for that is much more damage. You get the defensive bonus from Dark Shroud that dash doesn't provide, but you do get shadow clone, and that is so good. Yes, it's got a 60-second cooldown, but if you proc it at the right time on the boss, it doesn't matter. It's mainly it that lasts in some of the boss fights. You got a phase, and then you wait for the kind of like the last phase. You pop the shadow clone, and it just dies, and you move on. Skip the cutscene, pick up your loot, and go. Aftermath later on. So when we're using shadow clone, we get that bigger energy burst. So we hit shadow clone, we get energy, and we just spam twisting blades, shadow step, and everything's just die. We take adrenaline rush and haste, and then we also pick up momentum. So that's all the skills. As I said, that's the max amount of skill points you can get. So that's 50 for your levels and 10 for all the renown. And then we go into the Paragon board in a moment. We'll just look at the aspects. So I've chosen this for my particular way I want to play. So I've got Helm of Might in dry states. We go for, these are all codex powers from dungeons. So I've got a list on the spreadsheet where you know where to get your which dungeon you need to stop off at what point, to be able to pick up the codex power as soon as possible. So this is in aspect of disobedience from Kyrgyzstan. I'm not sure where that is, I haven't tracked that yet, but again it'll be in the spreadsheet below. Blade Dancer's aspect, Scots Glen, Fractured Peak, so we can pick up this one relatively early, is aspect of the Protector. I'm pretty sure that is the legendary power that comes on the guaranteed legendary drop on the amulet, but you actually want it on the pants. So boots, we're aiming for Scots Glen again, and Ghostwater aspect. Edgemaster's aspect on the ranged weapon. Coming for the amulet, we're aspect of Expectant, which is from Scots Glen again. And Dry Steeps for aspect of the Umbral for that energy primary resource. And aspect of Unstable Imbuements for our second ring. Again, that is in dry steps. Rapid aspect for our main hand, one of our dual weapons, and then finally volatile shadows on that one. These two are going to be probably the last two legendary powers I'll worry about, simply because I want to have a decent weapon before I solidify the weapon with a legendary power. Gems for weapons, we're going to be going with emeralds. All of our armour is going to be rubies for that max life, and then in our jewellery will be the skulls for the big armour upgrades. That's how I'm going to run my skills. Shadow step here, puncture there, which will be I can't remember the skill now. What's that first skill? Blade shift to start off with. Bonk. And then there's twisting blades. There's shadow clone, dark shroud on left click, and shadow imbuement on right click. And specialization, inner sight. Although what I again, this is end game through Act 1 through Act 1. We'll probably first start off with combo points because it's at that stage it's just easier, and then as we go through endgame we'll switch over to inner sight at the appropriate time, which is going to be more of a judgment call. Of course, if you want to start off with inner sight straight away, then go for it, but you might not have the movement / skills to get to the enemy because it's a random marked enemy. Unless there's only one enemy on the screen, it can jump all over the place, and to get to that thing, to kill it, to get your energy back up, it can be a bit dodgy, whereas the combo points are a lot easier to work out, especially when you've only got two skills, i.e. your puncher / blade shift and then twisting blades. So I saw that Paragon. I have spent hours on my Paragon boards, absolutely hours. This build has been 50 plus hours of torment of grinding out and the boards and looking at information, taking all different content creators' opinions on board, etc, etc, and this is what I've come up with. Now glyphs don't start dropping until well tier 3, so this isn't going to be this is what you take. It's going to be we're going to come up through here to get the life. Again, this is more I don't want to be respecking my Paragon boards too much. So yes, it's going to be early on, you're better off coming up the right hand side to get the damage nodes, but at some point you're going to need to respec. So I'm thinking long term gain. I'm just going to go up here through these nodes. I'll pick up this one once I get the glyph, which is turf. So for every 5 strength purchase we do 2% increased damage to close targets. I'm always going to be close, I'm a rogue. And then if we get the 25 strength within, we get the 10% damage reduction against close enemies. Again, I'm a rogue, I'm going to be close, which is what all these are nodes for. All of these nodes are picking up strength and some other stats that we are going to need, which guarantees the 25 strength needed on this glyph in this spot. But again, we won't be using any of these points or this one until we have that glyph. From here we go up through here, we take the legendary power. I can't remember which one. It's been a while. So we start off with no witnesses. The reason we've put that in there is because of the way the glyph works. I haven't chosen a glyph for this board because at the time I made it we didn't know how rare the glyphs were, and I hadn't really solidified the build. Now the build is done. Again, it might be a wing it job. See what glyphs drop. If it's appropriate for the way I'm playing on this build, then I'll slot it in and make some changes. But at the moment we've just got no witnesses there. We come up through here for more healing, and then we come up to get grabbing some stats, mainly looking at trying to pick up intelligence and strength where we go, and then coming up here getting this node, the rare node, for 10% damage and 10 intellect. Try and hit our intellect targets. Then we come through here and go into the next board where we take tricks of the trade. Your marksman skills grant your next cutthroat skill 25% increased damage. Your cutthroat skills grant your next marksman skill 25% increased damage. And this is where we have puncture and twisting blades working together. So we have the puncher, which is a marksman skill, and then twisting blades, which is a cutthroat skill, and they're working in conjunction with each other. You're constantly switching between the two to get that 25% increased damage, mainly on the bosses. I have a feeling you're not going to really need it on Trash, but I won't know until I actually get there. So that's it. I've only gone up to 74 points. That puts me round about World Tier 3 according to all the information prior to the first NDA being lifted. So that's prior to all the most recent videos. Honestly, I haven't had time to review the board, so again, this is just a rough guide. Hopefully I'll be able to solidify it, and that's that. And then by this point I'll be switching over to a druid and then pogging out on the druid. I'm not sure which build I'm going to go through yet. I don't know which one I'm going to do. I do like Storm Druid, like the Spellcast Druid, but throughout the betas and even in Server Slam, it was feeling a bit the way I built it. So what I'm going to do by this point, hopefully some other content creators will come out with a really nice solidified end game solo druid build. I'm hoping to get into a group, but we'll see how that goes. Then maybe that's something down the line. And I'm looking at long term here. Bit like Path of Exile, where I play in Standard, I'm going to be playing in the Internal Realm, but it depends on the season. Unlike Path of Exile, it doesn't look like they'll be transferring all the seasonal stuff over onto Eternal. Then they're not sure that they will. They haven't said they're not going to, but they're not sure they will. So we could end up with a scenario where you're going to want to play the season to get various things, but at the end of the day, if the seasonal stuff is not, other than the cosmetics, if they're not going to come over onto the Eternal Realm, then there's no point. Again, we're looking at a particular point where the only reason to play the season at the moment is to buy the battle pass just to get the time limited MTX. So we'll see how that goes. We will see how that goes. But that's my plans. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I know there's going to be a lot of D4 videos coming up, but this is my version of the Rogue, and that's what I'm going to be doing when D4 kicks off. Have fun. If you're playing D4, I hope to see you around. If you're not playing D4, you're playing PoE or Lost Ark or whatever other else, have fun. That is the most important thing. And with all these guides coming out telling you which build is best, which class is best, blah 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 blah, remember, unless you're really interested in having your name in lights and getting to level 100 first, or you're doing that hardcore race, play what is most fun for you. Doesn't get said enough in my opinion. Play whatever you find. If you want to be wacky and try your own build, and this is the first time you've had access to Diablo 4 for whatever reason, play something. It is so easy to respec. Yes, the cost in gold goes up each time you respec, but you earn so much gold in this game, it is quite unbelievable. If you're picking up a lot of stuff, you can sell it and you'll make a ton of gold. You do all the side quests and go into the cellars and the dungeons, you'll have millions of gold. It's easily done. So the gold cost isn't too bad. So by all means, theorycraft away. You've got access to d4builds.gg. Maxroll have got a lot of stuff on their new website now. Pick one, have fun, and there are plenty of resources out there for you to research. If you go onto YouTube and type in Diablo 4, there are tons of videos explaining all sorts of various things, including how to calculate your damage on the buckets, how to level up. There's a map resource where it shows you where everything is, if you don't want to, in commas, waste time trying to find it yourself. So there's all these resources available to you right now. So go and check them out, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.